Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of my interview with Byron on his work inside of Fmod for Prehistoric Kingdom. This time we're going to be talking about how he is as efficient as possible inside of the project, a few insights into the mixing of the game, and the adaptive system that he is creating. If you're new to this channel and you like learning about Fmod, middleware, or game audio in general, then please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you find most useful and interesting. That being said, we're going to jump straight back in with talking about how Byron is as efficient as possible and anticipates the workflow that is coming his way in a game dev cycle. Enjoy.
Because for a long time I was, running the way of, okay, here's my event, here's my audio, put my 3D stuff on there. But like with time, I was just like, if I'm having to update assets or I want to add more things, not having them so kind of consolidated into their own areas, like it made it really painful to go back and go through all those different events and be like, okay, well, I need to change whatever it is on this event. And so just kind of moving more towards this template stuff, it's not only easier for me to work with, but it also has given me way more opportunities for like, okay, well, I want to add, where was that sound we had? Oh, like here, for example, like in this animation, maybe the dinosaur is like moving its neck around. So I want to add like a little skin texture briefly. Like it gives you that opportunity to add stuff that without this, you'd have to go add a whole new animation event in Unity, and nobody wants to do that. So it's just nice. It's just clean.
It's like there's the question, why would things be updated? Why would you need to change the sound once you've designed it? Like in the game dev workflow.
So for me, it was honestly just because of efficiency. Like this was my first big project. And so as I'm, developing it, designing it, I'm like, there could be better ways to do this. And so I think in a more successful not more successful, but in a more educated approach, right? You already know the pitfalls. You can make assumptions like that. But for me, this was really a process of like, I think I've deleted all my old ones, sadly, but it was just one of those things of like, oh no, a perfect example is we have baby audio that we want to be developing. Whereas animals grow up, the sounds change. And if you have a source-based approach like this, you can go back, add parameters, everything you need to manipulate those sounds. But the advantage is that all of your source is in one spot. It's not like split across 700 different events, right? So for all these like sounds here, for example, for the Dilophosaurus, if we were like, oh man, we actually need, baby audio for every single one of these sounds, great. That's like 20 events that are then used elsewhere rather than like, oh, I got to go through every single event I've ever made for this group of animals and then push these sounds through it. No, just go to the source event and that's it. It's done. I guess it's more of just a safety thing. Like if it is something like that, something unforeseen, something that requires a bit more planning, maybe you can still make those changes. It's not too late. You're not uh, playing with fire, I guess. Very safe.
Right. And I think in game dev, I mean, God forbid something changes at some
Oh
point.
God,
Like
something
that
changed?
happen.
No, absolutely not. Why would it change?
In this next section, we're going to be talking about the parameters that come with Fmod. In other words, the built-in parameters. Parameters which are specifically made for specific scenarios. Byron makes use of these, and he also does something very interesting for the 3D assets in the game. Yeah, tell me, okay, so like implementation wise, like what did you do? Did you use built-in parameters? Did you get enough out of the spatializer? You also mentioned the challenge of the camera, right?
Yes. So the camera is very tricky because we essentially have like a very godlike game. Like if you're playing The Sims, you got that very top-down kind of camera. Um, and so that does something weird where I think at least in our case, you have to make it not sound realistic. Because if you're like in a first-person shooter, you can have very tight spatialization. Things are very clearly panned. But in our case, it actually makes things sound really small, which is surprising. So what I ended up doing was I essentially have two presets, which if you do not know that there is a preset browser in Fmod, please learn it and use it because it is amazing and it will save you so much time and a lot of tears. So here we have our distance models. So essentially we have two stages. We have the actual distance of audibility. So this is our 64-meter one. And this is just very simple. It's just 0, 64, can't hear it anymore, right? Then after that, we actually spatialize it. And you'll notice that the attenuation curve is very strange, right? It's just completely loud, and then it's gone. That's because all of that stuff happens in the distance model. And this is where we ensure that every sound in the game has the exact same fall off, the exact same kind of EQ shelving to make it sound like, oh yeah, I'm getting further away. Because what I found is, again, working with this kind of process of like, yep, 64 meters, 128 meters. When you want to make a change in the aesthetic of your sound, it's very annoying to go through like 10 different presets and make sure they're all identical. So by kind of splitting it up in these two stages, I don't have to worry about that. I can just be like, yep, we want a bit more of a low pass if the dinosaur is behind us. We don't want to hear all those high frequencies, just muffle it. I updated it here. Every single sound in the game gets it. It's super flexible.
Again, it's like based on the situation in front of you, you found a way to make things efficient. You're anticipating what might happen in the development, right? Know
Yes,
that you
yes,
go back and change everything. How would that work? How can I plan ahead so I'm not driving myself crazy with like 100 different events?
yes. If you are always looking for ways to make things easier, you are not lazy, you are smart, right? Because you'll be surprised by the amount of time you might have to spend like tuning the in-game mix versus like making the assets. And so when you kind of have a good processing chain, a good event setup, you save yourself a lot of time. And one of the things I added somewhat recently is some gain modulation based on the elevation of the sound. Because I was running into issues where if you were like above a dinosaur, but it was kind of outside the camera's view, it would still sound pretty loud, right? Because, you could be pretty close to it, but above it, and it's like, well, where is it? It's below you, right? And so by kind of hooking into Fmod's built-in parameters, which I know you spoke about recently, and also please use these built-in parameters. They are beautiful. They are the best thing ever. It was super simple for me to just be like, yep, if a dinosaur is directly below you, we just make it quieter because it's not important. And so what ended up happening with all these things, oh, here's the other thing. Yeah, low pass. If it's below me, I don't care about it. You end up kind of focusing what the camera sees. And that's really important for a game like ours, right? Because you can be anywhere on the map, see anything at once, focus on what you can see. That was kind of a big, I guess, pillar for my way of mixing this game.
Yeah, like the camera is pointing at something, but then below the camera is a different distance, right? You have two
Yes.
that you have to kind of compete with. So
Yep.
you don't, it's not like you want to completely cancel out that sound underneath the camera, because otherwise you
No.
the ambience kind of build up, right? But the low
Yep.
pass is a great way of just taking away our focus from it, right?
Absolutely. Like I used to work with Unity's built-in audio systems, and that's a whole story for another time. But coming to Fmod, the thing I really wanted was that camera control, the perspective of like, no, what I see is what I get. And it really bugs me when I play other games that use middleware and they don't take advantage of like elevation or like the cone stuff that I know you were talking about recently. Because it's so
And
easy and it makes the game sound so much better. It's so much cleaner.
right, because it speaks to Unity straight away, right? Using a built-in distance or built-in direction or event cone angle, like you said, or elevation. It's like it's
Yep.
just hooked up and that's it. You can almost immediately start testing it.
Yeah, all this stuff. Even like the speed is awesome. Like you can do some amazing like Doppler effect stuff if you're doing a racing game. Like all those calculations of like, yep, car is going past camera at a certain speed. That's just handled for you. There's no extra stuff to set up. It's brilliant.
Okay, so the next section is all about the mixer, how Byron has been mixing the sounds that he has been putting inside of Fmod. And you'll see he's had some interesting challenges to overcome and solve within Fmod. How much time have you spent mixing the game versus finishing stuff in like how much time have you spent putting things into Fmod, like designing the sounds versus like mixing them later in the game?
Putting stuff into Fmod is like hardly any time. Like with this setup, I'm just dragging and dropping. A lot of the time is adding the animation events to the animals, going back into Fmod, kind of mixing these. Where are they? Oh, I guess this one doesn't have it. Mixing the different events and my composite events to ensure that I'm telling a good story with these animations. But also focusing on the soundscape, because we haven't really talked about it much, but like we have very little bandwidth for like 3D stuff in our game. Like this entire ambient audio system is 2D. There is no like, oh, I'm going to put an emitter over here. No, it all is 2D because we have so many like user-made objects. Actually, I don't know if we'll include this in the video, but I wanted to show you something. We don't have the luxury of just putting an emitter in the world. Like that's not something we can do because it'd be insane. You put down like 10,000 air conditioners. Great. What are we going to do with those? Like
What you do
that sucks.
Prehistoric Park, right? Air conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So we have to be smart about it. We have to kind of, as I was talking about earlier, break the realism, as it were, to get the desired final aesthetic so that it sounds right. Maybe not real, but right.
I like that. So it sounds natural, not realistic. I think is the
Yes.
key difference that people should remember.
One of the things I've been kind of struggling with is so in our game, it's very sandboxy. You can build you can build buildings piece by piece, like very customizable. You can hundreds of thousands of objects in the parks, like very, very detailed. But I want to be able to support them with audio. And so one of the things I've kind of been developing is this idea of like, what if we didn't actually put sounds in the world, but instead we used data to drive 2D sounds? So if I play this like waterfall sound, get closer to it, you get closer to it. We're going to add some extra waterfalls. We're going to get further away from it. Now it's on our left. Now it's back in the middle. That's a 2D sound. But the idea is that we would use data from the game to be like, okay, well, we have a waterfall here. What is our distance? How many are in the current area? What is the average panning of it? And then feed that into a 2D event to give the impression of it sitting in the world.
Right. Because
right?
I see you're using a spatializer, but the distance attenuation is turned off, and you're just using the minimum extent, right, to give that sense of envelopment,
yes,
like a waterfall.
Yes. You can see here. Yes, I'm overriding the pan to give the impression of you looking different directions, where really it's just a 2D sound sitting on the camera and we're kind of manipulating it with data from the game world.
Right. And that's cheaper when it comes to the CPU budget,
Yes.
like power necessary to power and hear our sounds, than using the traditional 3D model. That's great, man. That's great.
And you completely avoid like any phasing issues of having like 10 emitters in like a single area. Like this is very theoretical because we haven't actually implemented this yet, but on paper, this is a really good solution. Now, granted, Prehistoric Kingdom is a stereo game. We don't fiddle with surround sound, but for our needs, this should work really, really well, and it's super cheap.
That's great. That's great. It shows that 3D events aren't simply just like putting on a plugin and that's it. There's so much information that we can provide. It's not just volume control. It's like, filtering, it's and the panning stuff and everything. There's so much more that we can put into it to make it sound natural.
Absolutely.
Hey, I just want to interrupt and say that if you are trying to build a career in game audio and you want some tips and tricks and help along the way, well, I have a newsletter with just that. I'll give a link to it in the description below. You can sign up and you'll receive weekly help on how to get started.
I figured out a very neat trick in Fmod because traditionally when you use convolution reverbs, Fmod converts them to mono, I believe. I might be completely wrong, but from what I found, it makes everything mono. So essentially, I just push everything to my magical reverb receiver thing, and it just kind of figures out like, oh, are we outside, inside, what are we doing? And then that'll push it to like our field reverb, for example. You can see I've got some weird filtering. I've got hella compression on. Like anything that comes through here is just absolutely brick walled. And the reason for that is for outdoor reverb, I do not like the, I guess, normal effect of how loud something is reflects how much reverb you get. I don't want that because I have things like breathing sounds, which can be quite loud, but that's weird if they make the environment reverb. So I absolutely crush the dynamic range and I do all of my reverb send amounts like on my actual groups. You can see this is like negative 45, I think.
Right. Okay.
But
It's like controlling like 100% like wet, and then you're deciding the amount of reverb as opposed to the reverb being fed different varying amounts of signal volume.
yes, absolutely. But the real cool thing is you can see at the end here, we actually have sends to a left and right channel, and then we just kill this original. There is no signal. And so what I figured out is that if you use the pitch shifter in Fmod, just the tiniest amount of pitch shift, it's enough to change the phase alignment of your mono signal. So you actually get a stereo convolution reverb again. But because you're only using one convolution reverb channel, it's like it's free, you know? It's really nice. It's
That's,
great.
that's okay. Okay. So just to explain again, so you've got one reverb send, one main original reverb send, and then
Yep.
sending that signal to two other sends. So essentially separating them out into a left and right, and they're left and right because you've panned them supposedly
Yes.
right, which I can see in the
Yes.
panel, and then you just turn off the original. So yeah, right, fantastic.
This is a really crazy looking master chain because there's 3 compressors. Um, I stole this from, I want to say it was maybe C418, the Minecraft composer,
Okay.
because I'm pretty sure I was looking up like soft limiting in Fmod, and I think there was just a random Twitter thread where he was like, yeah, so I found if you stack 3 compressors at this setting before your final limiter, it softens the limiting effect. And sure enough, it's exactly what it does. So that's my mastering chain.
So instead
Which
of
is
having
really,
a compressor, which might be quite hard, you're kind of basically splitting up that one compression effect into 3 stages. So it
yeah.
takes it down slowly right before it hits the limiter.
Yeah. And I mean, I haven't noticed any kind of weird qualities from doing that. So C418, thanks. That's a great tip. I appreciate it.
It's also something that Alex Riviere talks about in his book, Game Audio Mix,
Oh,
about how it's a very common technique to split it up into stages as opposed to just having one.
I did not know that. Thanks, game audio community.
Aren't we
Love
great?
that.
Isn't this such
Hell
a
yeah.
you also I also noticed as well you have two loudness meters. You have one pre-fader and then post, which is also just seems like a really great idea, right?
Yes. I didn't realize. Yeah. I think that was just me wanting to make sure that nothing was actually getting mangled from this setup. And sure enough, it seems to be even slightly louder, just ever so slightly louder.
It's interesting to
Um,
see if you're affecting too much of a change or whatever, or what's coming
yeah,
in, what you're actually doing it to it. It is ever so slightly louder. It's like barely anything actually.
yeah.
That's good.
I've,
That's
fine. I'll take it.
This last section is on the adaptive music system that Byron has been creating. And you'll see he's injected a ton of randomness and adaptivity in the music to create as much interest as possible for the listener.
The way Fmod works is that all of your parameters and not parameters, God, your regions, your transition markers, the way they are triggered is from top to bottom. Your order actually makes sense vertically. You know, if something is above something else, it's going to get triggered first, right? That's how it works, top to bottom. This system basically says that if we have, okay, I understand how this works. So when the building music is triggered, there is a little repetition counter that goes up in Fmod using this increment parameter function. You have the command instrument. So we play building music. The system goes, yep, we're going to increment by 1 because we've just heard some building music. Once the music stops and this resets, what's going to happen is, you know, we have incremented by 1. Where is it? We've incremented by 1 and the play is still building. So there is now a 50% chance that we're going to play idle music instead of building music, just for the sake of variation, right? Because if we always have the music be super busy and active all the time, 50 minutes into the game, you're going to be like, I need to turn off this music, right?
Right.
And so basically, the more times this building track gets triggered, we keep repeating and repeating and repeating until eventually it's just like, nope, you are guaranteed to get idle music. And it's going to keep giving you idle music while it de-increments this repetition penalty.
Okay, I think seeing the gameplay would give more context to this, so I can.
Yes,
what the building looks like. I see. So building is a repetitive action.
Yes.
And what you're trying to do is say that, okay, after a few times, I'm going to say, that's it, no more building music. Whether you're building or not, the music's not going to jump to it. And you're doing that all through Fmod. This is so cool. This is something that I've also been very interested in figuring out how to put timers essentially inside of Fmod without the need for Unity driven, information data.
This is how you do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how does the backward timing, backward incrementing work? How does that triggered?
So it's very simple. So basically, whenever the idle music is triggered, it goes in the opposite direction. So there's a command instrument that de-increments it in the other way. So because this is all still, chance based, like if you had a repetition penalty of 1, right? There's still a 50% chance it's going to play building music anyway. So if it does do that, then that becomes 2, and now we have a 75% chance of it being idle. So essentially it's going to be this back and forth. And obviously, if the player is not building at all, then it's always going to be idle music, and it'll de-increment naturally over time. So it's a very self-contained little ecosystem.
So each one of those transition regions is the same thing, but just a different percentage of chance,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So 175, 50. So this is 30 minutes of random generative material. Yeah, let me scroll this down for you real quick.
Oh my God. So this is based on notes? Yes.
So this is based on just like the next chord to play, basically. So if I go inside here, there's each section is about a minute long, and it's just staying on a certain key. So it's like D major, it's just going to be like a D pedal tone. So if I play this.
So this is.
No, not that.
The music is left off, basically, and you pause the game, it will stay in that key. Is that what you're saying?
No, sorry. This is like, oh, my game is paused. We have music specifically for if the game is paused, just to kind of help that vibe of because our music's very orchestral, very big, and so I wanted something that was like, hey, the game is paused. Let's do a little generative music system just so there's some variety. We can keep the vibes a bit more in check,
And why have you done this instead of just a single track? Dumb question.
Because I didn't like that. I didn't like that idea. We do single tracks in our game, and I was like, I want to do something that's different. So while players are building or just looking around, it's different every time. You don't know where it's going to go. So we have these like big, these are, you know, reasonably long sections, and we can change them. So if the player starts building, you know, we bring in some layers. If the player is near some water, we can bring in some like steel pans in the background. And this is all just for one section, right? I just wanted something kind of meditative, but still responsive to game parameters. And we can get rid of that so the player stops building, no longer near water. Take all those layers out.
Awesome.
But it jumps. So this took a long time, but I basically mapped out where everything could musically jump to and make it sound like it kind of makes sense, rather than just being like, yep, B can go to G, G can go to C. This maintains my original goal of unpredictability, but still keeping it musical.
And how do you decide when something should change key in this instance?
It's just random. So once the section gets to the end, it's just going to pick from any of these values. You can see the chance slowly incrementing up for each one.
Right. And that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you did, then please like the video, leave me a comment, let me know what you enjoyed the most. If you enjoyed all of it, then just say, hey Sergio, thank you so much. This was great. And that would be fantastic. I just want to say thank you again to Byron for sharing these insights, and to the whole team at Prehistoric Kingdom for allowing us to talk about this ongoing project. And I hope you gained a lot of insights that you can use in your own projects and work or studies, anything related to game audio in general. Cool. See you in the next video.